I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hunted as prey. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me. I just wanna live. I just wanna live.
So this is not the sermon that I had hoped to give this week as we celebrate Shavuot. I had planned to read the Ten Commandments, to talk about all of the ways that these rules have held us, have cared for us, given us order, guided us to be this strong and cohesive community that we are. I had hoped to talk about the beautiful imagery of the people gathered around the mountain, waiting for the revelation of the 2 stone tablets, of Moses ascending the mountain to study God's law, and then descending, enlightened and glowing, to bring this gift to the people of Israel. But this week, care and order are nowhere to be found. Just as at Sinai, tonight we are being called to gather, to listen and to learn, so that we can act. We will observe Shavuot by considering the 10 Commandments in the context in which we are living. Lo tirtzach, you shall not murder. I know that you have all seen the horrific video of the killing of George Floyd by 4 Minneapolis police officers. A grocery store employee called the police after suspecting that Floyd was trying to pay for his groceries with a counterfeit $20 bill. 4 officers responded. The video, filmed by a 17-year-old girl who happened upon the scene, depicts now former Officer Derek Chauvin kneeling on top of George Floyd, whose hands are cuffed behind his back, with a knee planted squarely in Floyd's neck. I can't breathe. I can't breathe, sir. Please, please let me stand. I can't breathe, officer. 2 other officers are kneeling next to him, or perhaps on top of him. That's unclear. Another officer casually stands by. Mama, Mama, he calls for his late mother. He knows that he's dying. Get up and get in the car, the officer says. I will, Floyd replies, but the officer doesn't let him. My stomach hurts. My neck hurts. Everything hurts. They're killing me. Those standing by, witnessing this killing, pleaded with the officer to get off of his neck. They pointed out his medical distress. The officer with his knee on George Floyd's neck jokes, "This is why you don't do drugs, kids." George Floyd grew still, his neck still under Derek Chauvin's knee. An off-duty firefighter begged over and over again for the officers to check his pulse. They don't. 9 minutes. For 9 excruciating minutes, we watched George Floyd slowly die under the knee of oppression that has been the Black experience in America since the first slave ships arrived on our shores. Lo tignov, you shall not steal. The following is an excerpt of a Facebook post from a woman named Delta Harbin. The picture that you will see is her husband and her 2 children. My husband is 31 years old. My husband can proofread a paper to perfection. He makes the best pork chops and neck bones. My husband was raised in an extremely wholesome home where they were not even allowed to watch Harry Potter. My husband has never tried any drugs, not even weed. He has never stolen from anyone, not even a corner store. My husband treats me and our sons like royalty. He serves at our local church faithfully and helps anyone he can. None of this stopped my husband from becoming a suspect. To do me a favor, he got my keys and drove around the corner to fill my tank at the gas station. While there, an older white woman was at the pump across from him, and he noticed she appeared very nervous and stared at him. Within minutes, police cars pulled in and surrounded him. He was questioned about why he was out. He was questioned about his activity earlier in the day. He was told he fit a description. They asked whose car he was driving. He was told he could not leave. He was told the description was simply a black man. Not a 5'7" black man of around 220 pounds who loves WWE, macaroni and cheese, and the Temptations. No, just black. The older woman was now watching, and the cops revealed that she had called in his suspicious behavior of pumping gas at the gas station. And now he was a suspect because he fit the description of being black. He was humiliated. He was emasculated. He was angry. And he was helpless. He was on his way to being cuffed when a white man stepped in. An older white man told the officers that they were wrong and that my husband had come from a different direction than the robbery they had mentioned. The officers released my husband after this. Not because my husband told them multiple times that he was innocent. Not because there were 2 car seats in the back of my car. My husband's voice meant nothing. The only voice that penetrated those badges was the white one. My hardworking, kind-hearted, silly husband was guilty because of his skin, and there was absolutely nothing he could do about it. The sight of him caused a woman to call the police. He wanted to scream. He wanted to fight. He wanted to yell at the top of his lungs that he was a man and he mattered. If he had, he would have been deemed aggressive. He would be resisting. So he kept telling himself that he had to make it home to me and the boys. He knew these men could kill him and justify it. He came home a changed man. I am a changed woman. Issues that once felt somewhat distant became our reality. So, when you dismiss the plight of black men in America, you diminish the ever-present fear within our community. You are willfully ignorant. If you think people make this up or are only apprehended by the police when they deserve it, you are a part of the problem. Open your eyes, but more importantly, open your hearts to the reality of being black in America. This picture of my precious family looks threatening to some people. My boys are cuddly and cute until they aren't anymore, and then they become a threat too. My heart aches for our country, and I feel so helpless. Lord, please help the hearts and the minds of our land. In a country in which we are touted as being created equal, the systemic racism that permeates our institutions and our collective hearts steals from our black brothers and sisters their sense of safety. It steals their peace of mind. It steals their dignity. It steals their freedom. And all too often, it steals their lives. Lo ta'aneh v'reacha et shaker. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. Yesterday afternoon, Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman held a press conference amidst the public outcry for the arrest and prosecution of the 4 officers who killed George Floyd. He asked for patience and trust as the process played out. He promised a robust investigation, but then he uttered the words that fully brought the grief of the community and the country to a point of boiling outrage. There is other evidence that does not support a crime. He did not provide or elaborate on that evidence. To this moment, that evidence has not been revealed. Without sharing the evidence he speaks of, he is asking that we not believe our own eyes, our ears, and our hearts that were shattered under the hammer of the pleas of George Floyd. But these are not the only lies that permeate this story. There are the lies in our own hearts and minds that we must root out and eliminate if we are to live by this commandment. The lie that we tell when we root out evidence of criminality in victims of police violence. The lie that resisting arrest or trespassing on a construction site or illegally selling cigarettes is justification for violence against our Black neighbors. The lie that Black men are inherently threatening. The lie that any person's value is determined by the color of their skin. And then there is the lie that we can trust this system to produce justice for George Floyd. Former Officer Derek Chauvin had 17 prior excessive force complaints against him. 17. No action was taken in 16 of those cases. In one case, he received a letter of reprimand. This afternoon, he was arrested. He was charged with 3rd-degree murder. This is murder without intent to kill. Perhaps this time will be different, but it is hard to believe that it will be so, because so many instances of justice in the case of Black people being killed by police have been lies. For example, just in the past few weeks, EMT Breonna Taylor was gunned down after being startled out of bed by police executing a search warrant on the wrong house. Her boyfriend, who fought back when he believed they were being robbed by armed intruders, was charged with attempted murder. Those charges were dropped after public outcry. Thus far, no police have faced charges or disciplinary action. In 2018, Antoine Rose II was shot 3 times and killed when he tried to run from the police. He was unarmed, and he was 17 years old. Officer Michael Rosfeld was charged with criminal homicide and later acquitted. In 2016, Philando Castile was shot 7 times by Officer Geronimo Yanez while reaching for his identification during a traffic stop. The aftermath was live-streamed by his girlfriend who witnessed the killing. Yanez was charged and acquitted. In 2014, Laquan McDonald, 17 years old, was shot 16 times by Officer Jason Van Dyke because he was holding a knife. Witnesses confirmed that he was not threatening or menacing, and he was at least 10 feet from any other people. Van Dyke was charged with 1st-degree murder and convicted of a lesser charge of 2nd-degree murder and 16 other felony charges. He received a sentence of 6 years. He served 10 months and he was released. Also in 2014, Eric Garner died after he was tackled to the ground and held in an illegal chokehold for illegally selling cigarettes. Video showed him repeatedly crying out, "I can't breathe." None of the officers involved in the killing were indicted. The list from which I drew these examples contains 17 instances of Black people, mostly young men, dying in encounters with the police, and it is far from exhaustive. 5 resulted in officer convictions, with all but 1 being on lesser charges than murder or manslaughter. In all but 1 case, convicted officers received drastically reduced sentences from those recommended for their crimes. No justice, no peace. How could we possibly trust that this time it will be different? והר סיני עשן כולו מפני אשר ירד עליו אדוני באש ויעל עשנו כאשן הכבשן ויחרד כל ההר מאוד. Now Mount Sinai was altogether in smoke, because God descended upon it in fire, and the smoke there ascended as smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. I watched as the city that I grew up in, Minneapolis, Minnesota, went up in flames last night. Peaceful protests gave way to riots and looting. The precinct where the 4 officers who killed George Floyd worked was set on fire, along with businesses throughout the city. Friends of mine were posting pictures on Facebook of flames and smoke, some in the distance and some right in front of them. As someone who values human life and safety and who loves the city that was burning last night, those images are deeply painful. But that painful destruction is born out of an even more painful truth. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. taught, "A riot is the language of the unheard." The difficult truth is that Black people have been pleading for action for a long, long time. They have marched since the Civil Rights Movement. They have demonstrated peacefully, declaring that Black lives matter. They have been berated for taking a knee at football games. And thus far, we have not heard them, at least not enough to consistently add our voices and actions to theirs to demand and create change. As mostly white people, with all the privilege that comes with it, who consider ourselves allies to our Black neighbors, we have an attention span problem. We often join the momentary outcry, but we do not stay in the fight in any meaningful way. We get outrage fatigue. We get busy. We can't truly understand the pain of their existence. God knew that tendency in the Israelites, who praised God for God's miracles and promised to follow God's teaching in one moment, only to slip into complaining and transgression in the next. And so God made the revelation at Mount Sinai different. God set the mountain aflame. The air was permeated with the startling sounds of thunder and the mournful cry of the shofar. Smoke filled the air, and the people trembled. They quaked, and they paid attention. Sinai is once again on fire. And if we are to be changed in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, the killing of Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, and all of those that we have failed before them, we cannot look away or condemn what we see. Black people are begging us to see them. They are begging us to pay attention. They're begging for our help. While these riots may look like uncivilized displays of criminal behavior, we cannot dismiss them as such. The sounds of their cries are the shofar. The flames are the burning mountain. They have our attention. But now it is on us to receive the message and to use what we learn to move forward in a different way. That is what this Shavuot is about for us this year. We have lost the commandments. As Moses did, it is upon us in this moment to set aside our fear, ascend the mountain, take the time to listen and to learn, and then to come down the other side with a new commitment to justice. May the death of George Floyd and those of our Black brothers and sisters who preceded him wrench our hearts into action. May this time be different. May we be different this time. And may his memory become an enduring blessing that brings forth a new era of justice and of peace. Amen.